it without sleep.
Yes, we can.
I went to sleep, Miles, and it happened.
Oh, Becky.
They were right.
I should never have left you.
Stop acting like a fool, Miles, and accept us.
No. Never.
He's in here! He's in here! Get him! Get him!
I don't know. This thing turns on. All right. You got yours yet? Yeah. What do you got?
I got 96.8.
I got 98.8.
Oh, well, we're golden.
Yeah!
Yes!
What's up, party people?
We're taking our temperature.
Yeah, got some thermometer action. You know, my thermometer actually talks to my phone.
Oh, that's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I mean, come on.
COVID's ridiculous. I don't like it. Hi, everyone.
So,
We're not drunk tonight. Cheers.
cheers.
Yeah!
We're starting off a little differently.
Yeah. We grew
for
up.
for those of you who may not know, I succeeded in getting everybody on the planet infected with COVID during the last show, and so it was a great show. We had a blast with Dave, and of course it went on way too long, but it was fun from beginning to end. We all had a really good time, and then as we were leaving, as we were wrapping up, Joe's out on the floor.
Wait, I can actually show how it happened. Because I have to turn the broadcast off with this button. And I hit the button, and I went, guys, I'm just gonna be down here.
He just laid on the floor, and then he was out.
I was out!
And Dave.
All I remember hearing Dave say was, I think Joe lost.
Yeah.
I think Joe lost. Yep, I lost, all right.
And he was thinking that what he meant was that Joe couldn't keep up with Dave's alcohol.
Oh, and I can't.
Of course, no. Who can? But that wasn't what it was about. It was about we were all getting sick and we didn't know it.
Yeah, and I actually stayed here that night. Thankfully, you had a bed open for me.
Yeah.
Like, Joe, I think you should probably stay here tonight. I was like,
So then we spent a couple of weeks grappling with, first of all, getting sick, getting COVID, after 2 years of studiously avoiding it, doing everything we could to avoid it, only to get knocked down in our being smug that we didn't get it, having to admit that, okay, finally, that's where the body snatchers thing came from. We're one of us. We're one of you now. It's like.
And really, like, it's like the dominoes have been falling. Like, so many people who went 2 years without it, it's like everybody's getting it now.
And I was
the last people standing.
Every time we had a conversation was like, everybody I know. I just talked to 9 more people and they all got it. So we were just like thinking, okay, when's it going to be our turn? And it shut down the factory for 2 weeks, and put all of our schedules, in the shitter, and I kind of recovered pretty quickly, relatively quickly, compared to other people. I didn't have any problem with smell and taste or anything like that. I had a day of fever. It was no big deal. other people around me. Nico-chan is still feeling some of the after effects, and Joe, I think you said you felt like today was the first day you were starting to feel really
I've been
human.
all right for a few days. The thing that I'll say, like overall, is I had, I think I told you guys, I had mono and strep at the same time in March. And that was, I don't want to sound like, you know, the drama queen, but that was like 10 times worse than this. Because this COVID business was like 2.5 days of, the dregs. Whereas in March, it was 3.5 weeks of unrelenting horror, you know, so this wasn't that big a deal. But you know, the drinking the night before we started coming down with it didn't help. So, oh, and by the way, guys, yeah, we're freezing again.
We've restarted the modem and the interface and everything like 5 times now. There's something going on with the connection. We get good numbers when we check the speed and all that, and then it disappears.
Yeah.
So if it freezes for you guys, which is really funny, you know what? It froze a couple of times on the last show. I remember seeing it do that, but when I looked at the show on YouTube, it didn't freeze. So
your wireless hub has COVID. It's the only one left.
yeah.
So it's great to see you guys again. Everybody showing up. Jim, it lasted 2 weeks for you. Yeah. So anyway, that's the deal, and so we're kind of we're playing it up a little bit tonight, in that we don't have any alcohol on the table. If you look closely, we got a different kind of thing happening.
Well, yeah, I mean, after getting, the first thing I do when I get sick, and I don't get sick very often, but when I do, the first thing I do is I stop drinking milk, I stop with the cheese, you know, all the dairy products go out the window. It's water and fruit juices and smoothies, and carbohydrates go away. I just really flush out my system, and I do rest. I just don't want to be. I want to give my body a chance to recover as quickly as possible, because I don't have any time to have downtime, and I don't like that feeling. I just don't like the feeling of being sick. You know what? Why
Nobody does.
Nobody does, but it puts me in a weird frame of mind. It's not just that I don't feel well, but it makes me feel like I'm operating in an alternative universe.
Yeah.
And that's where that's kind of part of where the science fiction movie thing comes in, because I feel like I'm in a parallel universe where everything looks, feels, smells, and tastes slightly different.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in another place, and it's weird. It's weird, and I have.
Well, I always feel like I almost wouldn't mind it as much if you could just lie there and your body sucked, but you're like, I can just do brain work. Like, I'll just do organizational stuff, and I can still use my brain. But that's kind of useless at the same time. You just kind of roll around and go. Oh.
Yeah, no motivation, and I did catch up on.
Amanda just had it. Wayne just had it.
Oh man.
Whoa, 11 weeks. Oh, because you had the first wave, man.
Oh.
It was a pow. Wait a minute. You were out of work. Okay. I was out of work 3.5 weeks with the mono strep thing. Like, that's freaking me out. 11 weeks.
Yeah,
Wow.
A friend of mine got it early on, and he didn't have the vaccination yet, so he got kind of the long one. It took him a while to come back from that. I'm really glad that
Well,
I had the vaccination, even though I'm under no illusion that the vaccination is supposed to prevent anything. It's
Well, of course
not.
not.
It's just supposed to keep you from dying.
yeah.
And I think that Nico-chan actually had some variation of it when it first started happening before we were vaccinated.
Uh-huh.
She had a mild form of it, and she feels now like she has the same symptoms
Oh,
as
interesting.
as before.
Huh.
But we didn't think it was COVID before because it was so mild. She just felt kind of like with no motivation and a little dizziness and a little shortness of breath, but wasn't really serious. But she did hang out. It was when everything was shut down, so she basically hung out in bed for a month or so.
Amanda, that made me chuckle. That was funny.
What's Amanda up to? What?
I binged Thundercats and played Minecraft like any normal 45-year-old.
I binged on Mad Men, and now I'm hooked on it. I'm into season 4 now. I can't stop watching it.
I binged on lying in bed. And by the way, it's not like I was lying on the floor just only coming down with COVID. I was hung the fuck over the next day too. Like
We hit it pretty hard.
Oh, I did. For me, when I added it up, I think we added it up on the Monday we talked. We did a FaceTime. And I was going, wait a minute. It was all that tequila and then the 2 martinis. Oh, and I remember looking back like, oh yeah, it left a mark. So.
You know what? But I didn't have a hangover.
Oh, I did. Oh, I did. Yeah, that was brutal. And so I didn't drink. I didn't have alcohol for.
Dave actually said he had a hangover.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That makes me a little bit happy. Not that he suffered, but just to know that he's human. Because good goddamn, it didn't even seem like all that touched him. And you know, I'd finish my tequila, which was wonderful, and he'd be like, one for me, one for you, one for me. And I'm like, okay, I'll keep going.
Yeah, he was going hardcore with the 1945 or whatever it was, that sipping tequila. He wanted everybody to really partake, and I didn't want to overdo it with that because we had all this other fun stuff that we were checking out. Yeah, the Don Julio 1942, which is this one.
Looks like it belongs in a library.
So when he brought this over, he hadn't opened it, and I haven't touched it since the show. So just to give you an idea if I can do this the right way.
Oh, that was.
There we go. Yeah. Can you see? That's how much is left. We almost cashed this one on the show between the three of us.
My liver hurts just looking at it.
But the thing about it is it's so smooth and easy to drink. You can just easily just not stop doing it.
You know what though? I'm gonna go ahead and just call bullshit on the thing that we always say. Is there anything that is like not smooth and like you don't drink? Somebody puts a drink in my hand, I fucking drink it, and then you know, it's.
Yeah, no. It's like going to Disneyland. Yeah, I'll try this ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try that ride. Oh, they got a new ride. It's upside down and you know it takes off at 5 G's and it hangs you by your ankles at 400 feet up in the air.
Actually, I can't do
Sure.
those. No, I'm a complete pansy when it comes to those things. Do you do those things?
Well, I haven't been to
the Pukifier.
I haven't been to an amusement park for a long time. The last time I went on one of those rides, I think it was. This is how long ago I went to it. It was. What was that place way out?
The sea park thing? The ocean park or whatever?
No, the one out
like
near,
the border of Venice and.
No, the one out in the valley, way out in the.
Man, I don't know.
Where your daughter's going to school?
In Valencia?
Yeah.
Six Flags?
Yeah.
Way up.
When Magic Mountain was still going, that was the last time where you went on one of those things where it slowly takes you to the top and then it just drops you.
Oh yeah.
And
the Deathmobile or whatever.
yeah.
Those were fun.
That was the last time.
Well, I hadn't had any alcohol until 2 nights ago, and my.
It's all smooth after the first one.
And a couple nights ago, I was coming back from LAX, and my my old student, who he'd been my student from the time he was 9 until he was 18. He's been in Nashville for like 10 years now, and he's done incredibly well. But one of the things he does is he's John Party's, well, he plays guitar with John Party, who's hot shit country star guy. And Derek said, hey, I'm playing at the YouTube Theater tonight, come to the show and hang out and do the whole thing. And so I went from the airport to the YouTube Theater. Have you been there? It's
No.
It's like a part of SoFi Stadium, which is where the Rams play. It's in Inglewood. I hadn't been there yet. But, amazing new. It's where the Rams play, and it's a massive production. So going in there and hanging out with them, like they had the big bar set up backstage before the show, and so we're kind of getting our drink on, and a keyboard player's making me these ranch water. Do you know what ranch water is?
No.
I think ranch water is tequila and water, and you throw a lime in it.
Okay.
And it's actually, it is what it is.
A long time ago, I went to a bar in Rosarita Beach, which is south of.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, south of Tijuana.
About a half an hour south
like
of
it there.
Tijuana. Yeah, beautiful beach.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hotel there, and we ordered a pitcher of margaritas. And what we basically got was a pitcher of tequila with ice in it and some slices of lime in the
That's
top.
right. It was kind of ranch water.
This
is ranch water.
I tasted it and I went, I think I said, don't you guys know how to make a margarita in Mexico? I was young and dumb.
It's a totally different thing.
And
Yeah.
I know the guy didn't. The guy had the class not to say, yeah, that's not a Mexican drink and you're a poser. Shut the fuck up.
Well, so before the show, drinking ranch water, had a shot of John's such a big shot, he has his own whiskey now. So before the show, like, it's packed backstage, they're passing out shots of whiskey, and then I had a beer during the show, and I'm fine. But after the show, I went back and hung out with them on the tour buses, and that's when the Willet Rye came out. And that messed me up. But the funny thing was being at SoFi. Here, I gotta show you guys this. And I sent this picture to one of my friends so I can show you. So that's what it looks like on the top of the stadium. Okay.
And that's in Inglewood?
Yeah, it's in Inglewood.
Oh.
So here's the thing, guys. So I don't think it's gonna come across. It's this weird 3-pointed situation they got going on here. But let's see, this point right here, like the roof of this thing flies way up in the air, and you're like, wow, and then it all comes down and terminates like right above the ground. And you're like, oh, it's this art project, and then it comes down to this point, and I'm like, and I'm hammered, and I'm like, I want to touch that. I want to touch the roof of SoFi Stadium, and I think I can. So I like stumbled down through the landscaping, and I'm standing under it. I'm like, I think that's like 9 feet high, but I got hops. I used to be able to dunk a basketball in high school, so I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I think we're freezing, but I was wearing Chelsea boots, not basketball shoes. So I jump up and I touched the roof of SoFi Stadium, but when I came down, I rolled my ankle and I bruised the shit out of my left hip. So I'm black and blue here right now.
Oh, so this is recently?
This was 2 nights ago.
Oh.
Just coming back, left the airport.
This was
go to
like
the
some
show,
old war
hammered.
story. And you're
No.
You're still like
This was the last
like
time I drank. I wound up on the floor right here, and then the next time I drank, I busted up my hip.
So
It's SoFi.
you still think you're a teenager? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I will never stop thinking I'm a teenager.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to how you feel.
Yeah, so my hip is sore right now. So water water with ranch. Or I think I saw a water that tastes like ranch. Yeah, Violet, it was painful, but I when I collapsed into a ball and I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'm really gonna feel that in the morning. I was laughing my ass off too, because it was fun.
No roller skating for you anytime soon.
No, well, that's not true. I will roller skate, and I will, because I have another hip to break.
Oh. Right.
Hark. Do you hear this?
Ooh.
Wow.
Right. We have a nice Japanese green tea here, and we're going to talk about that a little later in the show. But
I love this.
I'm still in my fluids and taking care of myself in healing mode, and one of the things that really works for me is tea, and I love Japanese tea.
Is this another cheers situation?
Yeah,
Ooh, that's warm.
it's warm. We've got these traditional Japanese teacups.
I'm afraid to drink this. Oh, wait.
Hold it with this. See, there's a purpose for everything in Japanese
I'm gonna let this
cuisine,
cool
and
off, actually.
well, you want to.
I think that if I drink that now,
No, I
it's
think
gonna burn the hell out of my mouth.
No, you shouldn't. Just take a little sip of it. Try it. You'll be surprised.
Are you giving me the peer pressure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it won't burn.
I did it cool down a bit.
Hmm.
She already let it steep a little bit.
Hmm.
So we have a few things.
Thank you.
We have a few things we're going to try, and we're going to get a little bit of a fractured history lesson on Japanese tea. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. We've got a little setup here. So we've got a few different teas from the southern part of Japan, Kagoshima, and we're gonna learn about that in a little while. But now we're gonna imbibe on that, and we've got also from that area we've got some. This is natural brown sugar, I think, that comes from Kagoshima.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and you just take a little bite of it and
Oh, I can't wait to do that.
eat that with your tea.
Violet, cheers. Thanks for stopping by. Talk soon. Jim, if they do a wax job, I'm out of here. Yeah, me too. Amanda's drinking green tea.
Inhale,
Jasmine green tea.
exactly.
Scott, what in the hell? Scott, that's horrible, man.
What am I
I don't know
missing?
what to say.
What am I missing? Tea time?
No. He's having COVID stuff, heart attack. Are you okay?
Oh. Shot to boost unfortunately suffered a rare side effect of heart damage. Suffered a heart attack. Wow. I actually know of another person that had a similar experience. Maybe not as intense as what you appear to be going through, but.
Oh, Scott, I'm sorry, man.
The thing about getting this and why you should continue to go after the the vaccines and do the masking and all that is because there are, even with these milder versions that are out there, more contagious but supposedly milder, there are still side effects that people that are unknown, little after effects of having COVID that are related to brain function and heart function, and they don't know what the source of it is yet, but I've been reading about that. So it's something that you want to. This isn't over.
Scott, I don't want to make light of, and I'm not making light of what you're going through, but just my little deal. Like, I'm one of the people who lost smell and taste, and I still have, I don't know, maybe 25% of my smell and taste back, and I'm kind of 3 weeks down the road now, so it's bizarre for sure. But man, I'm sorry you're going through that, brother. Well, yeah, but it's nothing compared to you, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Are we gonna take tests?
Well, I've sort of really gotten in the habit of doing tests these days, and where before I was just like, well, I'm fine. I don't really need it. I don't need to do another stupid test. But I've been doing it.
I think we kind of said we would do them just to kind of be shticky on here.
Yeah, and I've been doing it enough now that it's sort of become a habit and it doesn't freak me out anymore. It's just you do it. And
you can't get your pudding if you don't eat your meat.
That's right. That's right. They're so easy to get the test. I keep seeing people, oh yeah, my medical insurance, blah, 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 blah. No. It's not about the medical insurance or any of that stuff. You can go to UPS and they provide them for free.
It takes less than 30 seconds to get tests on your way.
It is so easy and free. They're still accessible. And if you don't know about that, just go to the UPS website and you can find out how you go get them.
Jim?
No, I'm kind of making my little COVID test.
Jim, that was funny, dude.
Jim, let's see.
Oh, Scott, that's awesome.
I lost
That's
smell and
awesome.
taste. Save me from. Oh, now that's cold. That is cold.
Supposed to stick inside for 1 minute.
You got a different test. My thing isn't. I'm flunking.
Well, I'm not exactly following the protocol as much as I should, but we'll see.
You're a malcontent.
Supposed to be 3 drops?
3 drops, yeah.
Okay.
At least on my test, it's 3 drops.
All right. Well, let's see how I did.
Let's see if you passed your test.
See if I passed my test.
I can't wait to shove something up my nose.
We're not doing the sushi tonight. We're just doing the tea. Stella's still getting her groove back here. I really got knocked off my stride. There's so many things going on at work. We have back orders of power stations. We have back orders of power loads. We have back orders of power amps. We have back orders of speaker cabinets. We have back orders of everything. And, literally our whole team was down. And, anybody that wants to go comment about, hey, it's just, go get it, and it doesn't matter if your family members get it, then they'll all get over it, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm a business owner. I'm an employer, and I have employees that I'm responsible to. And one of my employees just recently had a baby. His wife had a baby. And it was a complicated pregnancy, so she couldn't get the vaccine, and of course the baby can't have it. So when he comes to work and he gets COVID, he can't go home, because if he passes that along to his wife and his baby, they're both gone, and we can't risk that. So we basically put him in quarantine separately from the company, and he couldn't go home for a week until he tested negative.
Oh man!
And that's just called sane, reasonable levels of caution and and awareness of what's going on around you. You don't want to be part of impacting somebody else's health. So there's a lot to be said for taking those extra precautions. You've been doing it, keep doing it. Why not? I wear a mask everywhere. I just love it if somebody says, hey, wearing a mask is optional. Like, I don't know why you even bother with it. And my response now is, it helps me mind my own business. And I haven't had anybody try to punch my lights out for that response yet. But,
I'm doing the timer on the test here. I'm being very boring right now. Okay, I'm set.
So anyway, Scott, more power to you. We hope you get on the other side of this, and wish you the best of health.
Absolutely, and I'm really, really, really happy to hear that, it's kind of sparked some positive change, finding the silver lining and all that stuff, so that rules. Hey, it's not 15 minutes yet, you're not supposed to read it.
I think that this one.
You're cheating.
No, this one.
Oh, that's a different one.
This is a different one than yours. Okay, how do I do this?
Tom, go Pirates. The funny thing about that, I have to admit, I'm not really a Pirates fan. I was born in Pittsburgh, and I think the hat's cool, but baseball's not my jam. But
I don't think. Oh, here we go. There we go. There we go. All right, that's me. So, let's see what you come up with. I didn't wait the full length. I've used this test before, and it doesn't really need to wait the full length. If when you get to the point where the control strip is that visible, you'll start to see the test line start to happening, and it's not doing it, and so it's not going to do it. Anyway, I already know that I'm negative, but it never hurts to. So easy to do, and it never hurts to keep checking. So screw it.
Screw it, man. So we have a couple questions up here about the Ultralead update and the GPDI update, and I know that there's nothing really to say about that right now because there's other stuff coming. It's not that they're not coming, but there's other stuff in the queue that you're doing right now. What's happening at Fryette right now?
Right now, well,
now that you're kind of getting sea legs.
We're digging out from under power station and power load back orders. We're going to be shipping all the dealer back orders over the starting the beginning of next week, all the way through the next 2-week period, which is all the dealers that are waiting for Power Station 2 and Power Station 100 and Power Load and whatever other items, cabs, heads, power amps, they're all going.
The turbo power, the power load, the turbocharged, turbo-powered 5150 mod from the depths.
We're starting to get regular shipments of tubes in, and we've been having, dealing with tube shenanigans from tube suppliers, and we got a little comment to make about that tonight. But we are getting stocked up on tubes, so we can start shipping again. And I have been, I thought that this downtime was going to be an opportune time to finally wrap the GPDI design, but the motivation just wasn't there. And
geez, how come?
Really.
The post-COVID fog?
Yeah, totally.
It's real.
It just really felt like, I don't know, maybe that's why I glommed onto the binge watching Mad Men, because I felt like I was in another time and place anyway. So watching Mad Men, and not necessarily the storyline, I could give a crap about it, the plot, I mean, there's fun little plot twists and stuff, and it was a well done show, but the historical background.
Well, that's Martini times.
The Martini thing, and they cover the the Kennedy, and they cover the all the historical things that happened during the time when the timeline when that show is running, you know. So it just reminded me. The thing that really stuck out in my mind is how much people smoked.
Oh, yeah.
They all smoked and smoked constantly. And I never really thought about that, but then I did think about it and I went, yeah, that's what it was like in my house. Everybody popped out a cigarette every 5 minutes and you just didn't think about it. But
Yeah.
everybody is smoking. There used to be this one on our original factory in Thousand Oaks. There used to be this little falafel place that this guy started, him and his mom. He started the business, developed the menu, but his mom did all the cooking, and it was really great. It was
Get back in the kitchen, Mom.
one of the best falafel places that I ever went to, and it was reasonably priced and was always good. So we went down there for lunch all the time.
I want falafel right now.
And his mom looked like a character in Larson. Totally looked like a Larson, with the beehive and the cat's eye glasses and stuff like that. And they had a curtain over the door between the front counter area and the kitchen area. And one day it was really busy, and you normally kept the curtain closed, but this one day the curtain is open. And so his mom is back there furiously wrapping up falafels and stuff like that, with a cigarette sticking out of her mouth, with a big hunk of ash on the end of it. And I'm like looking at this, I'm going, I'm never going to eat here again. And the owner, because we were starting to be buddies, and I said, I don't think people want to see that. And he turns around and he sees his mom leaning over a falafel with this big hunk of ash, and he just yells, "Mom!" And he closes the curtain, goes back, and you hear this, "What am I doing? Well, I'm not doing anything wrong." And they got into it, and and all these people are standing out there in the line going, "Oh my God!" And I felt sorry for him, but that place was gone within 6 months after that.
Oh, wow.
I just think everybody kind of went, "Whoa, that's not very kosher."
Oh man, that's too bad. They had a nice product.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she was a creature of another time,
Yeah,
and she didn't even think about it.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, so what's the deal with the tubes, man?
well, are we going to cover that in the half hour?
No. We're going to talk about a certain celebrity guitar player. Unless you want to talk about it there, we can do that.
Well,
We're couching all of this stuff, like,
all right. Well, okay. Because that was from the last show that we were going to cover this thing about the 6550s. Because the supplier, tube suppliers are always giving us these slippery stories about what's going to arrive next, when it's going to arrive, and what the price is going to be, and what the new law is with the duty, you know, and the tariffs and all this kind of stuff. And it's all of the suppliers do this. They all tell a little piece of the puzzle. Nobody tells you the whole story. Nobody tells you really the truth. They just give you these little morsels, and you got to try to take all these puzzle pieces and figure out some kind of an overall view of what's actually going on out there, because you never know. I mean, I actually had a tube supplier tell me that stewardesses were smuggling 12AX7s in their luggage. Now, there isn't anything more unbelievable and stupid to hear come out of a supplier's mouth than airline stewardesses are smuggling 12AX7s in their luggage.
I like that story.
And it's just such an absurd thing to even say out loud.
Are these those secret stewardess 12
Oh my, the
man?
Russian stewardesses or what?
Oh,
I'm just
man.
Like, stop with the shit.
Those sound
Stop
the
with
best.
this. It's just they just keep upping the ante on the silly stories that you have to endure.
This is a fractured fairy tales.
Totally. And but one of the things is the length of the space inside the power stations is based on the specification, the original specifications for the design of the tubes. Those specifications were created, like by Tunxall and GE and RCA and Gold Line and all of that. So they all tend to be, the height from the base of the tube to the top of the bottle is generally 100 millimeters. And, about 3.5, 3 3/4 inches, something like that. 100 millimeters. And the KT88s that are labeled Electroharmonics, Svetlana, and Gold Lion, they all use the same bottle. They all use the same internal components. They just treat them differently in the final finishing stages to give them their different behavior.
Okay.
Some of them have gold-plated grid wires, some don't. Some of them have the more or less getters, or the getters in a different place. They have some have a tighter vacuum, some don't have as tight of a vacuum. This is the way they really change the behavior of the tube amongst the different brands, not so much what metals they use or what assemblies that they use inside the tube. You see generally the same basic sort of format in all of them. So the bottle shape, the vacuum, how many getters, and a little bit probably about how the grid is wound, because when you wind grid wire around the grid wire supports, you can change the pitch of the wire.
Okay.
So that there's more or less space.
Yeah.
And in some cases,
like a tighter spring looking thing, or
and
looser.
and in some cases that grid wind is progressive.
Oh.
It can be wider at the top and the bottom and narrower in the
It's
middle,
like a
or vice
compound
versa.
radius.
Exactly, and that's done to cause a certain kind of a behavior of the tube. So it's more about the mechanics of it and less about the materials. But their claim was that the maker of the bottles of the tubes was going to get out of the business of making tube bottles. They were going to get more into light bulbs and other kinds of devices, and that sounded kind of implausible to me, but that's what they said. And when they started shipping our orders, which were for Sovtek and Svetlana and Tunxall 6550s, they substituted one of them with EH 6550s, which use the same bottle as the EH KT88. And I said, we can't use those for the power station. They're too tall. They're like 104, 5, 6 millimeters. So they're too tall. We can't get the cover on. We don't want to use them anyway because they're too bassy sounding. They don't sound. They don't sound as even and neutral as the other two. So no, we don't want those. And the rep goes, what do you mean they're too tall? They're not. They're just the same length that they've always been. And I said, yeah, and that's too tall. And so he went back to Mike Matthews and told him what I said, and Mike is going, wow, they are making them longer than they used to. They used to be the right length. And he came back and told me that Mike was freaking out now with the Supplier because as recently as a few months ago, they were maximum 100 millimeters. I'm going, no, they weren't. And he goes, oh yeah, they absolutely were. And I said, no, they absolutely were not, and I can prove it. And regular watchers of the show know that we've done this a few times where I pulled out my old tube stash because I keep samples of everything, because I know I'm going to have this conversation with these people, and I keep the receipts. So I sent them 2 documents. I sent them a breakdown of the height of the tubes of the various brands, not only of the various brands, but different production years, because they all have date codes on them. And I sent them a chart with the date codes. And I said, here are all the tubes that you told me that over the last couple of months they've gotten longer. So let's start with the photograph.
Of the tubes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is, starting from left to right, there's a Svetlana 6550. And then there's the EH 6550. And then there's the Gold Lion KT88. And then there's a, that's another EH, see what is that? Another EH 6550, and then an EH KT88 on the far right. Now, the little blue boxes that I superimposed on the photograph, those are showing the production date codes of the tube. So the one on the far left is says 1312, that's 2013, the 12th week of 2013. The next one, the EH 6550, that's the first week of 2013. And then the Gold Lion, go back to that picture.
Hold on, I have to pull this out to do the thing.
Right. The Gold Lion in the middle, that's the 6th week of 2015. And you'll notice that it seems to be a little taller. Part of that is camera angle. It is slightly taller, but this is 2015, and the supplier is telling me that up until just late last year, they were all within 100 millimeters. Well, that Gold Lion KT88 is well over 100. It's about 108. And then to the right of that, the electroharmonics from the 6th week of 2021 is the same height as the ones from 2013. And the next one is from the 2nd week of 2021, the KT88, which is also the same height as the tube from the 6th week of 2021 and the 1st week of 2013. So now let's pull up the height chart.
Well, I have to do that while this is up, so you won't be able to see yourself.
That's
work
fine.
on it.
That's fine.
So
What I did was I took this photograph and I made this upcoming chart to,
this is the email that you sent me, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so we'll get to that. This is what I sent them back when they told me this story about the height just mysteriously, unbeknownst to us, magically got.
But while we're doing this, can you tell me where you heard the story about the smuggling? The stewardesses smuggling the tubes?
Somebody was told. I got that secondhand. Somebody was told that by a retail supplier that the tubes were being smuggled in by airline stewardesses. And whether or not a tube supplier, legit tube supplier, actually said that, the problem with the floating story always changing and getting massaged, the problem with that is when that stuff gets out into the public, it gets forumized. That information gets forumized,
Sure it does.
where it just starts taking on a life its own, and the information gets less and less reliable and more outrageous till you just can't even believe what you're hearing anymore. And that's all back to the suppliers having a very narrow, what am I trying to say? They're thinking small. They're not thinking about the long-term consequences of just spinning this shit.
Right.
They're just trying to get out of a jam today. And it just gets compounded and worse and worse and worse. So now if you look at this new chart, this is what I also emailed them. Okay, you just told me that everything is 100 millimeters and blah, 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 blah. And just recently, as recently as a few months ago, the KT88s and the electroharmonic and Gold Lion KT88s and 6550s were all the same height, and that they were under 100 millimeters. And here they are. The tungsols are 96. Whether the date code is those first two tungsols up there, the first date code is 0506. That means the 6th week of 2005, And then the second one is the fourth week of 2017. They're exactly the same height. The Sovtek 6550 date coat, the second week of 2020, 98 millimeters. The Svetlana 6550, the ninth week of 2021, 99 millimeters. The Sovtek 6550 date code February, the second week of 2022, 99 millimeters. Now go look at the EH, date code 1301, 104. The Svetlana KT88 using that same bottle shape, 103. The Gold Lion using the same bottle shape, 103. And the last one is the Gold Lion from 2015, 105. So that blows the whole story that I got from them about they were all under 100 millimeters until just a couple of months ago, and we just found that out because you brought it up, and I just totally called bullshit on that, and then they stopped with all that. Over this period of time, all kinds of things, you know, over a period of time of 20, 30 years, there are design changes and materials acquisition issues that they have to deal with, and that stuff, it happens from time to time, and it comes up, and it gets dealt with. But my big frustration about that and the whole thing that's going on with the tube production is that for some reason they don't feel like they can just tell you straight up what's going on and what the solution will be. And it just blows my mind that that any other manufacturer, any other industry, that's your lifeblood. Telling your customer exactly what's going on and giving them the opportunity to make intelligent choices about their production so that you can all move forward together and solve problems, as opposed to just having to run this slalom of garbage.
Why do you think that is? Well, a couple things. You just made an assertion that I'm not sure you could prove. As if other industries don't have that. But let's run with that for a minute. And let's say, like, this crap is only happening with the tube supply industry. So what my question to you is, do you think that that's because they are supplying tubes to, like, it's like, these are just guitar guys. These are just amp guys. They're cavemen. Just run a line on them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the bean counters.
Of course they're doing that, because a lot of their customers don't have that sophisticated knowledge base to.
They were never educated as to actually this is the way it's supposed to go.
Right. That's. I mean, that goes back to long-term experience. It goes back to actually understanding the engineering that goes into and what goes on in manufacturing. We're a manufacturer. I deal with metal. I deal with precision machines that form and shape metal, and we deal with suppliers of different kinds of steel from different parts of the world that are supposed to be the same grade of steel, but when they say the same grade of steel, they're saying it's approximately the same grade of steel. This kind of steel out of China, if you look at the specifications for that kind of steel, you'll find that when you compare the specifications to American-made steel, there are subtle differences in the way that it's produced, and it's actually called a different thing, but it's sold as equivalent because for all practical purposes, it is. But there are times when a small little specialized part of a specification sheet will cause a different performance or behavior of a particular kind of a metal, particularly in output transformers. And we ran across this when our transformer supplier was unable to get sufficient amounts of American silicon steel, that's M6 steel that's used in output transformers, and they bought an equivalent type of material from China that, for all intents and purposes, it was equivalent and actually slightly better quality, slightly higher specification, and the protection tolerances were slightly better. However, in a given output transformer that's used in a given amplifier circuit, it was a little too good, and it actually caused our amplifiers to bust into oscillation. Because we've talked about feedback in amplifiers, feedback loops and presence controls and how all that works. Well, if the performance of the steel, where all other parameters stay the same, but the steel spec causes the transformer to perform a little differently, then the feedback loop, which it's designed to stabilize and linearize the behavior of the entire circuit, is now subject to the different behavior of the steel.
Sure.
And could cause actually an increase in high frequency feedback, which could cause the amplifier to go into oscillation because it's more feedback than you originally designed into the product. So there's two fixes for that: modify the feedback loop, or tell the supplier we can't accept these transformers. And I opted to reject the transformers, because otherwise I have to modify the product, and then I have to document what we did and when we did it, what serial numbers that modification started with.
Yeah, because what if the next transformers are different?
Right.
Then it's
Yeah. Then you're
and
on
then when
a,
you have stuff coming back to be serviced, you know, all right, which one is this?
then you're on a slippery slope, and
Yeah.
you've got more administrative headaches that go along with dealing with
Right.
that, and what a mess.
Right.
So I just went, no.
Nope.
So what we did was we went back to the supplier and added language to the specification sheets that indicated that the steel for this particular transformer had to be supplied by this American steel manufacturer, because those specs were those specs.
Yes.
And that's just what happens. You know, the supplier gives you some information that they didn't really realize was relevant to you. You bring it up to them, they go, oh, yeah, that's something that we hadn't considered. All right, well, it's important to us, so that means you have to do something about that. Okay, well, we're using the steel from the Chinese supplier for some things, and we're using the U.S. stuff. So now that we know that we have to prioritize this particular kind of steel for your project, we'll do that. Now, maybe the next time we design a new transformer with that supplier, we'll specify it with a new steel, and we'll design the circuit around that and do all our quality testing and all of our QC stuff, all of our prototype, dialing everything in based on that part, and then that'll be fine.
Yeah.
The only trouble is then they can't go to the other grade, because then the performance will degrade in the opposite direction.
Hey, Stephen has a cool question here. Maybe we could grab. I don't know if you remember. You see it?
Yeah, that was probably 20 years ago. And it really, I think, if I recall correctly, it had to do with the silicon content of the steel. Now, the steel that's used in output transformers is not only, there's a couple of different levels. The one that we most commonly use in higher quality output transformers is called M6. There's an M9, which is...
Sounds like James Bond characters.
Yeah, which is a different formulation. There's grain-oriented and non-grain-oriented M19. M19 is the nearest equivalent to M6, but it's not grain-oriented. And we could go really down a rat hole on that, so we won't do that because it's too complicated. But then whatever the specification from the Chinese supplier was a similar grain-oriented steel in the same sort of operating class as the M6, but it wasn't exactly M6. It was actually outperformed M6 a little bit. It was more efficient in the high frequency behavior of it. Now, and that has less to do with I mean, it has to do with the formulation of it, but it has more to do with the tolerance. And I think at the time, the Chinese steel suppliers were using newer equipment,
Okay.
ovens, computer controlled temperature. Their tolerances were tighter. And of course, they're trying to compete with American steel, so they have to make it at least as good. And then the buyers have to understand what the difference is too, or else you're just flailing in the wind. And so the difference was the silicon content and the production tolerances, and that it was grain oriented, and what all that means is it's like that's a whole show just by itself.
I'm clear.
Yeah. Well,
Clear.
mine is still clear.
But it says, oh, there's like a weird coded message in here. It says, fuck you, you still can't smell it. Thanks, COVID. How's your tea?
It's cold.
Yes, but it's bringing health and vitality.
And Scott says
In a way that
Mike is a
margaritas don't.
businessman. Well, there's businessmen and there's businessmen, and
Are you gonna do this?
there's a way to prioritize things, right? I mean, he's also a guy that's sort of got a lock on an industry so he can get away with murder, and
Spicy, Steve.
that's just, I just have a problem with that. I mean,
Yeah.
when you've been dealing with somebody, when you have a relationship with somebody and you've been dealing with them a long time, you sort of expect there to be like a two-way avenue of information that allows you both to operate at your optimum capacity. And the other side of it is like, well, you're just one of my 100 customers, and you're the picky one. You're the prickly pear. You're the one.
And you're going, we've been doing this for over 30 years, bro. Like,
Yeah, doesn't count for anything.
yeah, that's
When the attitude is, I'd much rather deal with the know-nothings that don't give me any headaches.
yeah, the 6-month-old account who I've never broken bread with, never shared a
yeah.
drink with, but they don't
Yeah,
ask my for
Yeah.
my product to be better.
right.
So those are my favorite people.
And the tubes that, so, regarding the businessman comment, okay, so the tubes that we reject, those are getting sold to the other company where the guy doesn't know shit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe his application isn't as stringent. We run a pair of KT88, or a pair of 6550s, or a pair of KT88s at 100 watts. Somebody else that just puts KT88s in an amp that has an output transformer designed for 6L6s and runs at 400 volts, and it doesn't really matter as much. They could probably use those tubes and they'll be just fine. Good for them.
Yeah.
But they don't work in our application, and my point of view is our application is based on the document that you provided me that said this is how this tube operates. So you represented it as this, I'm using it as this. And if
Right.
you don't like the fact that I'm using it the way you represented it, is that my fault?
Okay.
And what am I doing wrong in that? I'm just asking you to live up to your representation of the product that I'm buying from you. Just like my customers, you guys, expect us to do
All
with
right.
the product that
Yeah.
we make.
Oh, you're gonna catch hell if it doesn't.
That's right.
Hey, John. Nice to see you, man. And Jake, MVP comment right there. That's the real touring circuit.
Oh my God, it is. Oh my God, it is.
So that's kind of the state of the union at Fryette for right now.
Well,
All right.
more tubes are becoming available. We're getting more options. And whenever we get more options and have more choice in suppliers, that helps insulate us from the crazy stuff that goes on. And but the craziness is going to be ongoing for a while. It just
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
Yeah.
But the logistics part of the problem is receding. and the materials part of the problem is starting to recede a little bit. So it's getting easier for us to get parts and bring in materials and complete production. But there's still stuff left over from the last year of parts that we have ordered and that we're waiting to arrive. And it's nuts. It's nuts. Here's a perfect example. We order a special custom-made switch. And because it's a custom-made switch,
For what?
we agreed, doesn't matter.
Okay.
We agreed that that order, that special order, is not cancelable and not returnable. Why? Because they can't sell it to anybody else. It's our specific
sure.
design.
Yeah.
That means they would have to go out and find a customer to use this switch. Well, they don't make it as a standard item. It's a switchcraft part. They don't make it as a standard item for anybody else. That means nobody else wants it. That means if we want it to be made that way, then we have to take a minimum order
Right.
quantity, and we have to buy them all, and we can't cancel, and we can't return them unless they just don't work, unless they're rotten.
Sure. Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But
They can't supply
if
you
they make
together.
them to spec, we can't return them, and we can't cancel the order. Fine. But we're waiting a year to get the switch. So, okay, we ordered this custom switch. It's non-cancelable, non-returnable. You insist that we buy them.
It's also non-receivable.
It's non-receivable. So this is a purchase order is a contract. We will buy the
Apparently.
parts from you. We will buy all the parts from you. We will pay for all the parts. But your part of the contract is you actually have to deliver them. And if you can't, you've broken the contract. It doesn't matter if it's non-returnable or non-cancelable. You can't deliver it. And we didn't receive it. So we're not returning it. And we're not canceling it. You can't deliver it. So the PO is closed. No, well, you can't do that. We're going to take you to court.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's rich,
And
dude.
that's why you document everything on a purchase order.
Wow. Oh man, I would see red. Somebody pulled that.
Being in manufacturing, if seeing red is a problem for you, get out of manufacturing. Really.
Well, I remember. Yeah, that's why I play guitar. Only play guitar. Oh, T reinforcements.
Ooh.
I like this plan. The only thing that would make it better is if we had that Koto music again. That was.
Well, I think this would be a good time to talk about the tea a little bit.
Oh, well, in order to do that, we need to have Nico-chan come in from the bar. I don't know if she's available yet, but should we put a call in?
Yeah.
Well, guys, here comes the tea. And then we're debuting a new segment this evening. We think you guys will really enjoy.
So Tom, psilocybin tea. Psilocybin tea.
Thank you.
No, not psilocybin tea. So let's talk about the tea.
So,
It's Japanese tea, and it's from a particular region, and we're going to learn.
are we going to talk about tea first, or are we going to do the history lesson? Are we going to introduce the section first? How should we do this?
Let's do the the history lesson is also going to be the
Then let's just do the intro,
Yeah.
and then we'll improvise our way through it.
Yeah.
Because it's the Malcontents, damn it. Yeah. So here is our new.
a new segment.
So it's Nico-chan's Depressing History, and this evening the topic is tea from this particular region of Japan. Correct?
Yes. And so we're going to find out a little bit about the region and why it's depressing. So here we have Nico-chan to tell us
Hi,
all about
Nico-chan.
it. Yay! Welcome to the show. Nice to see you again.
Hello, everybody.
Are you loaded?
Meaning?
What have you been drinking this evening, Nico-chan?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. None.
Not even tea?
No.
Wow, I think that's a first.
Yeah, I'm sober.
Well, I don't think I've ever spoken to you while you were sober, Nico-chan. Wow.
Yeah, I know what's wrong with me.
Okay. I'm nonplussed. But you have a history lesson for us.
Well, I don't know anything about tea.
Oh, okay. Well, neither do I. That makes two of us.
But the tea you guys drinking today, it came from the area which my family came from,
Oh.
and that's the area the kamikaze pilot air base was in. So the World War II, there was a Battle of Okinawa.
Mhm.
There's so many young people attack U.S. Sorry, you guys. Attack U.S. There's like a little over 1,000 airplane attacking U.S. and 400 of them came from the area. This T.
These are the
That
zeros.
you're from.
This is the zeros you're talking about.
Yes, zero pilot, kamikaze pilot.
Hmm.
There's like a lots of air base, the airplane base there in Japan, but this area is called Chiran, the place most of them left it and then died.
How do you spell that?
Chiran.
R-A-N. Chiran.
Chiran.
So
this region, this tea came from this Chiran region, which is also where a lot of the zero pilots came from, the kamikaze pilots that
For the Battle of
flew.
Okinawa.
Battle of Okinawa, yeah.
Yeah.
So 400, I think it's 400 people, 400
pilots.
pilots died.
Wow.
In total, the 1,000 young men died, but the 400 of them came
Came from
this,
that region.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as it happened to be today was Hiroshima atomic bomb anniversary.
Oh my God. Yep, BMO, correct.
So it's
That's depressing.
it is.
That's really depressing,
Yeah.
Nico-chan. I'm glad you brought that to us today.
Yeah, I drink this tea because this place I came from, but it just happened to be that area. It's really the sad history behind it. Because of the areas, there's a lot of people, including my father, joined self-defense armed force in Japan.
Okay.
It's because we have Japan, we lost World War II,
Mhm.
so we can't really have an army.
Right.
So the Article 9 Constitution in Japan, we can't have military.
Mhm.
But we are having armed force. So my father has also joined that. So don't really like the war. Now the Russia's and Ukraine going on, war going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really sad. There's the war, the people are still, somewhere in the war, there's people still fighting, and that's kind of depressing. Depressing. I wanted to bring other tea tonight, but that's the only I have today. So.
Yeah, and that's the story of, well, I guess, were you mentioning before that a lot of the people who had taken part in the Japanese military from that region after the war were making this tea? Like that became a big...
Well, the areas, the aerial, there's I don't know what's called. The most.
There's this area, Kagoshima, had this sub area, kind of like North Hollywood or Oxnard or something, an area called Chiran, which is where this particular kind of green tea comes from. And this particular green tea, Chiran, from this region, it's like wines, you know.
Right.
They are the largest supplier of this particular kind of green tea in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's a very historical area, not only for tea production, but also the World War II background history. It's a very rich cultural region. I've been to a couple of museums there. I went to a World War II museum, and I'll tell you that the way these Japanese people historically deal with their participation in World War II is that they're probably one of the greatest supporters of non-nuclear proliferation, and the pacifist, non-aggressive sort of attitude about world events, world relationships. They have firsthand experience with the worst outcomes of war. So they have become one of the biggest supporters of non-nuclear proliferation and peacekeeping negotiations and all that. They're not actually even a member of NATO because they couldn't be, but they are a big supporter of NATO, and they work with the United States to help support the U.S.'s position with regard to NATO. So they're an ally in that sense. There's a lot of that, and I went to one of these little memorial museum kind of things. It was actually a train station that was no longer used.
Yeah, that's a kamikaze museum.
Kamikaze museum with little tiny space, but they had photographs of all the kamikaze pilots from that little area where that museum is. Photographs of them, and their names, their age, where they went down, and they've got these miniature recreations of these various battles, showing a B-52 and all these little zeros around it, and on the ground there's crashed planes. These really painstakingly crafted little scenes, vignettes of particular battles and which kamikaze pilots engaged in those battles, and they're considered, they're considered heroes. They're considered patriots. They gave everything for their country. It's a pretty touching experience to go see that. And there's also lots of photographs of what was going on with the local population during wartime, how starvation and how people made do under those circumstances. It's pretty intense. It's definitely worth a visit to go see some of these things. It just gives you a whole different sort of perspective on world events and how they're perceived around the world. Fantastic stuff. Anyway, so what we have is this one particular tea from that region, which happens to be Nico-chan's family's sort of hometown area, and we decided to try to tie it all together. And
In a depressing way.
yeah,
Depressing, yeah.
depressing.
Wasn't that nice?
Today was Hiroshima atomic bomb day, so
Yeah.
kind of sad, but you know, the history we shouldn't forget.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Tom, no, I didn't go to the Doll and Toy Museum. I didn't know such a thing exists. I did go to the Hiroshima Museum, and if you really want to, if you want to get a real education, that's something that if you ever go to Japan, you need to go to. Of course, what's phenomenal about Japan when you go there is what a beautiful country it is, and especially Hiroshima, which was just flattened by a bomb. What a beautiful rebuilt city it is, and Tokyo was of course flattened during World War II, and it's a modern
You know,
metropolitan city, right up there with New York and Paris and all that.
I haven't visited the country, but I went down the rabbit hole at one point I don't remember what was the instigating thing, but it just occurred to me at one point that, wait a minute, there has to be oral histories out there of the people who lived in these cities that were bombed, who survived. Like, I had never heard any of that directly, from the Japanese people. I always heard the story from, here's what happened tactically, in all of in the different theaters and whatnot. But actually, a lot of this wonderful history, well, it's depressing, wonderful history. It's available online, and there's a lot of oral accounts of the people who lived through it and what it was like. Here's what I was doing the morning before the bomb hit. Here's
They
what my
play
family was
those
doing.
at the Hiroshima Museum.
Really?
They play those videos.
Oh, I mean, you don't do it when you're sitting around eating your lunch. I mean, you gotta be ready.
The Hiroshima Museum. Another thing about that is, like I was talking about the little models of the cities in these other in the Kamikaze Museum. The Hiroshima Museum has a complete 1/32 something scale of Hiroshima in this big display, and they've got this steel ball bearing that represents the bomb suspended from the ceiling over the city,
Wow.
so that you can see in relationship to the city how high the bomb was elevation wise when it went off.
Wow.
Which also explains there's this tower that was right underneath the bomb when it exploded. That
that didn't.
it's damaged,
Yeah.
but it didn't get flattened.
Yeah.
And the reason why
Forgot
it didn't
about
get
that.
flattened because of the elevation of the bomb and the way the waves propagated out. It didn't flatten this one building, and that's why it's standing. So they show this ball over this model of the city with this little model of this building that didn't get demolished, that's still there. It's just mind blowing to see all of that, and it's
But it's not depressed. It's so peaceful.
peaceful and it's hopeful. It's
Yeah.
got a very positive outlook.
There's a hope there.
Mhm.
It's giving a message to people that the Japan is the only country got the atomic bomb, and it's a history. It's part of the history, and then we never use it again, because we are the one, the Japanese, got it. We know it's how horrible, and we're just telling the people, the young people and the future peoples, don't do it. We shouldn't do it. No war, no, we should be just live peaceful, thinking each other. Japan dropped the bomb in Pearl Harbors, and we can point the finger at each other's, but
Well, it was all bad.
it's all bad. It's all bad. It's
Drink
war.
tea instead.
It's there's no good answer. The war is not good. War, we shouldn't have a war. I know in the future, history repeats, so maybe some other country maybe start the war again, but
Right now.
yeah, right now
Yeah.
it happen. But
Yeah.
we should not do it.
Tom makes a comment about the creepiest photos to me are the ones of people's shadows flashed onto concrete from the
Oh
flash
yeah,
of the bomb.
we saw that we all.
Yeah, the photographs are creepy. Seeing the actual stones in the museum right in front of you brings it home in a way that a photo never would. It's just, that's something when you could actually reach out and touch that stone because it's sitting there in that museum with that person's shadow. You can see that they're leaning against this stone before they're vaporized. That is the one that just makes your insides completely disappear for about a minute and a half or 5 minutes. It's an intense experience. And interestingly, every kid in school is required to go to the museum.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think the last
I'm happy
time
to hear that.
the last time I went there, I think the admission was 25 cents, and they kept it. It's really inexpensive because
You need to go.
school
You
kids
need
are
to go.
bused
You
from
need to
around the
go.
country to go there.
Yeah.
And so it's really inexpensive to go see it because they want you to go there and see it. Not only to see the destruction, but see the rest of it, how they've handled it, how it's changed the country
Right.
philosophically and all of that.
Right. Right.
It's an intense experience.
Yeah, we also went to San Diego a couple months ago.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We went to the battleship Iowa. We
Oh,
went inside.
Yeah.
So we on both sides, Japan side and the United States side, and it's no good. I mean, nothing is right. Having war, we understand the American side, understand the Japanese side. I'm sure the people in the Ukraine and Russia that they suffer right now. So I don't know what to say, but just we hope that war ends really soon, so we can get the tube too. We want tube.
I love this segment. Will you come back and do more depressing histories in other
I have
episodes?
more depressing story.
Okay, well,
I do.
well, now that we've got a graphic for it, we don't want to do another one right now and blow our wad all at once. So we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back the next episode, and we'll have another episode of Nico-chan's depressed history.
Yeah. So everybody out there, give her a hand, even though
Yeah.
she can't hear it. Yay, Nico-chan. Oh. Yeah, that was really depressing. So,
How about a half hour of half power to
half hour, half power. Half power.
Right. 1, 2, 5. Lisa. 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
We're
Okay,
switching gears.
We're switching gears. Okay, so this week's half hour of half hour is going to be.
So should we explain again what the hell it is?
Take it away.
Uh-oh, that's my fault. Now I have to talk. Well, so the half hour of half power, the thinking behind it is that, we get on this show and we roll the balls out and we are normally drinking a lot. And so sometimes we say some ridiculous shit.
Stupid shit.
And some of it's due to the drinking and some of it's just due to not knowing what the hell we're talking about. And two things happen. Either one of us will think about it in the ensuing days and go, oh, wait a minute, I think I misspoke. And then we'll go check the show and go, yeah.
Or somebody will say, you know what, I was totally talking out of my ass, we need to fix that.
Oh, yeah, because it's the internet and people like to bust our balls.
Yeah.
Which, that's fine. So.
We just want to beat you to it. We want to bust our own balls.
Or kind of like, it's not necessarily an apology, but it's like, we don't want to be putting out false
That's
stuff.
right. That's right.
You know?
That's right.
It's not intentional, you know?
Yeah, we're not scripted here, so
No.
when we're running down stuff, I'm gonna say 6L6s when I mean EL34s. I've caught myself doing
That's
that.
happened. That's
Yeah.
happened. Yeah. And so, which one do we want to cover first? What are we going to talk about today? What do we
think-
need to clean up? We need to clean up some Randy Rhodes.
Randy Rhodes,
I think
right,
we need to
yeah.
Clean up some Randy Rhodes.
Well, let's see. I think when I was talking about
This wasn't last episode, right? This was
I think it was the one
previous
before that, yeah. When I was talking about when I was playing in an original band and playing the clubs around town that Quiet Riot and Van Halen and a bunch of other bands of the era were playing, and we happened to be playing in the same club one night as Quiet Riot, and I had said that I was talking about what I was most impressed about Randy Rhodes was that he had a roadie sitting behind his half stack that was moving the recording head on an Echoplex to change the settings while he was playing, so he wouldn't have to do it. And I just thought that was funny. And I think somebody asked what amp he was using, and I said it was probably a Marshall. And then I went back and did a little bit of reading, and it turns out during that period of time he was actually using a PVPA head, a solid state PV standard, called the model was PV standard. It was like a 6-channel
This is
solid
the Quiet
state.
Riot when you saw him?
Yeah, PA head.
Okay.
And I don't really remember that much about the amp he was playing through, and I know that at that time I wasn't really that focused on whether it was a Marshall or what it was. I think I was mostly sort of absorbed in the presentation of the band as opposed to what kind of gear they
You
were
weren't
using.
super into gear at the time?
Oh, I had my gear sort of together. I had my Hiwatt, I had my Les Paul, I was doing my own thing, and I didn't really see that as anything competitive, whatever else anybody else was using. The thing that I remember was about Randy Rhodes was his playing, the guitar he was using, and his roadie, whose dedicated part of the act was man the Echoplex.
Which guitar was he using?
I'm pretty sure it was
The
a Les
white-
Paul.
the white Les Paul?
I'm pretty sure it was a white Les Paul, but I could be totally wrong. It could have been black. It could have been anything. I was just thinking, okay, these guys. I was in a more progressive sort of punk new wave sort of songwriter pop, heavy rock pop oriented music, which I thought was more more forward looking kind of music, and I saw bands like that as kind of dinosaurs.
Oh, that was right at the cusp.
Right at the
Like
cusp.
the new
of-
wave thing was like, this is gonna wash
Yeah,
all this rock and
this
roll
was
crap
Quiet
away.
Riot sort of transitioning from glam,
Yeah.
into what, hard rock or whatever hard rock was going to be.
The
and
LA strip.
yeah, so they were kind of like at the end of glam,
Oh, yeah.
and they weren't going to make the transition like Van Halen did from. Van Halen was a newer band. Quiet Riot had been around a little longer, I think, and I think Van Halen had more of a. They were more progressive in that they were kind of carrying the flag of hard rock, but they were taking it much farther. Where I think Quiet Riot was still trying to navigate how to get from glam to some kind of version of rock and roll, and
Yeah.
but then the bands that came right after them, were the strip, late
I
'80s,
think-
early '90s metal bands, right?
What I think the difference with Van Halen was, and it's not like they could have planned it this way, but it's the juxtaposition of you had the Van Halens and Michael Anthony, who were kind of more of a hive mind with the most brilliant guitar player ever. So, I mean, what are you going to do when you have
Right.
Ed? But they were rockers. Roth was the guy who went, I don't really listen to that.
Right.
I want to get up and I want to, like, he wasn't coming from that at all. So, like, in Quiet Riot, I know Randy wasn't really super into that style of music that he was playing. You know, he wasn't like a heavy rock guy or a heavy glam guy, even when he was in Quiet Riot, and certainly not when he was with Ozzy. Like, his listening habits were elsewhere.
Right.
But I think he's playing rock, and then everybody in the band was rock. Where Van Halen was like, okay, we've got the 3 rocker dudes, and then this lead singer who's going to totally take it. Like, no, guys, we're going to do Happy Trails a cappella.
Yeah.
Like, nobody did anything like that. No, we're going to have this goofy humor cornball thing.
Yeah.
And then the way they're able to put it together with, like, the super heavy musicianship and cornball on top, it worked. You know.
And Quiet Riot was really a transitional band. They weren't a band that laid down a direction that other people followed. They weren't leaders. They were transitional, and which of course, you know, when
no shade intended. It's just
when Rhodes got the opportunity to like move on from where he was, he jumped at it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he brought Sarza with him, and
you can be awesome within a predefined box.
Right.
You know.
right.
It's not saying that Quiet Riot wasn't worth anything.
And they did have their moment.
Yeah, they did later with Carlos.
Yeah.
So that was your misinformation.
That was my
because I had a really
misinformation.
embarrassing misinformation.
Right.
A very bad.
So
Randy
take it away.
misinformation. It was just I was thinking about. I'm embarrassed I said this. I'm going to blame it on the booze. I was thinking about watching some Randy clips and seeing, you know, his white Tolex Marshall head, and I called it out on the show as a Jubilee.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, because the clip that I saw, I was talking about something from '82 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who was busting our balls was like, dude, the Jubilee came out in '87. And I'm like, you know, I knew that. Not at the moment that I said it
Right.
on here, but yeah, that's totally right. And so I needed to clean that up. I said a stupid.
And there's another one. I mentioned that I thought that
But I actually think that the white Tolex Marshall, I think it was like it was a JMP, like 100 watt. It wasn't.
Probably.
Yeah.
And they were offering different colors at the time, so that was a color that they offered. I had mentioned that the Crazy Train was done with a Rockman.
Oh, that's right.
It sounded like a Rockman to me. It still sounds like a Rockman to me. And then one of our gang busted me and said, "Yeah, the Rockman didn't happen until a couple of years after that record." And I went, "Really?" And I was working at Valley Arts when the Rockman came out, so that could be true, because I was working there from '79 to '84, I think, and I think the Rockman came out in whenever it came out, '82 or '83, and Crazy Train came out in '82.
Randy didn't have it in '81 or '80, whenever they were tracking that.
Right. So it couldn't.
So we
have
were
been,
saying a bunch of stupid
it
stuff.
couldn't have been that. It sure sounded like it, and when I listen to it now, it still sounds like it, because I thought it was an awful guitar sound. The only thing that was good about the guitar was the player, but the sound was.
Well, I think, and that was a big thing.
Super compressed.
We were talking about that on that show. It was kind of going, and it was so odd because you hear the live tapes and go, he sounded like his tone was so together live.
Right.
And then in particular that first record,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Diary of a Madman, he made strides in the studio. Blizzard of Oz, like the tone. But you listen to it anyway, because it was still Randy just killing it, you know, and that's such an amazing record. I mean, it still is.
Oh, yeah, but when I was working at Valley Arts, they had a repair shop upstairs. So the main floor was guitars and amps and drums, keyboards. And then upstairs was the guitar repair shop and the amp repair shop. And then underneath, on the main floor, there was also lesson studios and a demo room.
Okay.
And it was like being in the amp shop upstairs right over the demo room. It was the same sensation of working in a music store
I
where
was
somebody
just
comes.
gonna say, was it like being in Guitar Center all day long?
It'd be like being in Guitar Center when somebody comes in to play Stairway to Heaven. Only at Valley Arts it was, you know, the whole Randy Rhoads tapping, ascending scale tapping thing that every guitar player had to come in and spend a half an hour in that room doing that riff over and over and
You know
over
what's
again.
funny about that riff is George Lynch claims that he showed that to Ray. Well, but here's the funny thing, is George does it in the Tooth and Nail solo. And yeah, Tooth and Nail came out after that record. But I'll be damned if it isn't the same damn lick.
Huh.
Yeah, the tapping thing. But Scott, thanks for throwing down with all the Randy stuff in the chat. And John, I agree with you totally. Oh yeah, the MXR EQ. Man, yeah, not a big fan of the pedal EQs. That's kind of dangerous stuff, right? that can kind of put you in faux Rockman territory in a hurry.
Well, I can tell you when I designed the EQ for the Ultra Lead, I went and tried every EQ out there on the market to get a feel for EQs. And I had an EQ pedal, an MXR EQ, that I bought to try to use in a guitar rig, and I hated it, so I ended up using it in my stereo.
That's funny.
What I would do is I'd put it in my stereo system, and I used it if I wanted to hear what a guitar player was playing better.
Oh yeah.
I would use it to bump them up in the mix, to bring out the mids. And so you could figure out what frequency that the range that the guitar player was playing in, and you could bring the solo out front of the mix a little more using the EQ, and that's what I ended up using that for. I never ended up using it for a guitar rig.
Yeah.
But I listened to that, I listened to the Boss EQs, and I was kind of playing around with that, and one day Buzzy Featon came over to the shop, and I was futzing around with that, and he goes, oh, yeah, forget the Boss EQ for the guitar EQ. Get the Boss bass EQ. That's the one that's got the frequencies in the right place. And he's one of those guys, you know, that hears, you know, all the little alien voices in the universe that nobody else can hear.
Yeah.
And so when he said, check out the Boss bass EQ, I did. I think I still have it somewhere. But he was right about it having bands that were more useful for guitar than their guitar EQ. But what I ended up doing is using it in a reductive way, where I took the MXR EQ and the Boss guitar EQ and the Boss bass EQ to figure out where I didn't want the bands to be.
Ah, interesting.
But I also used them to figure out that the thing that all the EQs had in common was that the bandwidth and the Q of each band was very similar, which you would do in an EQ where you want to just boost or cut select frequencies. You didn't want to really totally jack up the frequency response. But what I was looking for in an EQ for an amplifier was specifically a way to jack the bandwidth and the Q of the different frequencies to make them reflect what was actually happening in the wood, the body wood, the neck wood, and the construction type of the guitar. And you couldn't do that with a regular EQ. It was just too generic sounding. So I had to play with that and figure out, you know what? The lower frequencies need a wire bandwidth, and the higher frequencies need a narrower bandwidth. And when you get really high in the frequencies, you also need more Q so that it becomes more effective, where the lower frequency ones, they need less because it's very obvious when you pump up a low frequency. It's more subtle when you pump up a high one. So I threw all the rules out the window on that. But I've learned that from playing with all the EQs that were out at the time. And that was one of them. The MXR Can band was one of them.
So Scott, it's the Flying High Again solo. if you listen to that tapped solo and then you listen to George's tapped part on the tooth and nail solo, you go, oh yeah, that's the same thing. And George says that he showed that lick to Randy, and then Randy put it in Flying High again. So, ba-dum-bum.
So much for
Hey Eric, what's up?
half hour, y'all.
Yeah, and I think we got in way under a half an hour. So, let's see. We weren't going to go too long tonight, but I have something I want to throw out to you guys. You got power loads on the way, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
And I am still working on some power load video material that needs to come out. And so, and it's funny, I don't think I've mentioned this to you for a while, so I'm just throwing this out into the universe. I have an analog cab sim demo video.
Right.
That I'm about to finish up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a video talking about the headphone amp and its functionality. And then I have an interview with Mike Nielsen about bye T-Cart, bye. It's been nice knowing you. Hopefully you'll come back sometime and visit us on the playground again. I have a Mike Nielsen video talking about doing the IRs for it, and I still wanted to interview you and do a clip about just your thinking behind the unit.
Because God knows, nobody knows what I think about anymore.
People like that stuff. But here's what we're going to do. There's 2 questions, and we're going to kind of talk about it in a survey format. So because we're trying to divvy up these sections into easily digestible things, we have an intro for this, and it's survey time.
Dude,
Yes.
that is some tubby bass on that track, dude.
Tubby bass?
Yeah. It sounds like,
Sludgy bass?
yeah,
Sludgy bass?
very overloaded.
Distorted bass.
It's,
Totally.
It's
distorted bass. Hell yeah. It wasn't the guitar, it was the bass.
Yeah.
But anyhow, you heard what I said about the videos that I was going to do. What I wanted to put out for survey time is if you guys had any requests for power load videos that you wanted us to do, specific things you wanted us to talk about before we kind of wrap up the power load stuff and move on to whatever's next. Again, analog cab sim coming out, headphone amp functionality, Mike Nielsen interview, Steve interview. Those are the things on tap. But if there's anything else that you can think of that you want me to cover, throw it in the chat. So that's the first thing. The second question was, if y'all have ideas of things that you would like us to cover on the show in general, just topics that you'd like us to base the show around. We have a bazillion ideas, but we realize we've never really reached out to you guys and asked what you'd like us to talk about. So
We probably have 5 shows that we've skipped because somebody got sick or something happened technically, or somebody was out of town or something.
yeah.
And so we have those kind of in the wings whenever we can connect with whoever was involved with them to get them back on track. But besides that, we always are wondering what we can do to, answer your technical questions and get not just the where should I set my bias or stuff like that, but things that are practical use to you guys that would really make a using the gear or using a particular piece of gear with another piece of gear to get the best benefit out of it. So if you got thoughts or suggestions on that, we're all ears.
Yeah, because we kind of think about it every time we're going to plan a show. It's almost like, let's come up with a magic trick to show them, rather than go, oh, maybe we should just reach out and find out what they want to want us to talk about.
Yeah, and I think I said at the beginning of the show that like Dave busted on me last time. He says, I can't believe that you guys actually sit down and talk in advance about what you're going to talk about. But that's me being anal because.
Well, but we only have two of us. If we had a new guest on every week, I think we could just kind of do it a little bit more like not. I think if we don't talk about it at least a little bit, it would be a little too samey.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We just go to the stuff that we know, and you know, when we kind of talk things through ahead of time, it at least opens our mind up.
We also go. Yeah, that was a stupid idea. Let's not do that.
Yeah. But maybe our stupid ideas. Maybe people want us to be stupider than we
could
normally
actually
are.
do a show where it's just all the stuff that we reject.
And then we could talk like Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
That'd
Maybe
be
we could
awesome.
have them on as guests.
This is great, guys. Keep it coming. This is so awesome. There was a question up there that I don't have a straight answer for it, but this one, I think what you're asking is like I do, like the songs and the videos, the demo videos. Is that what you're talking about? Like if I would ever put them out somewhere, like up on Spotify. I've actually thought about that. I mean, they're normally like shorter than normal songs because they're just kind of formatted for a video. But I have enough people asking me about them that you know, I should do that. It wouldn't take that much. You know, I have the year-round upload privileges on DistroKid. Like I wouldn't even have to pay extra for it. So thanks for throwing that out there. And if I have the time, I'll definitely throw that stuff up.
Hey, so we're gonna some of the suggestions that you guys throw up here for stuff to talk about are things that we're gonna incorporate into the next episodes. So keep them coming. But John Gormas came up with one good question that should be answered now, and I love it. What's the most outputs tracks that you can record at one time with the power load? I think the number is 6. There's
It's not 3.
there's well, I mean it depends on how crazy you want to go.
No, that's the Monty Python.
Yeah, that's true. Every jack on there can be used simultaneously. So you've got the XLR out and the 1/4 inch out of the passive direct out 1, and then you've got the same pair in the analog direct out 2, and then you've got the same pair in the IR out, right? So there's 6 there, and then you could actually use the headphone out as a headphone out, or you could use the headphone out as a stereo feed with the effects in the effects loop. So that's 8. So that you could actually, if you were nuts, you could run 8 tracks simultaneously. Of course, it would be all driven from 1 amp, but you could do 8 things with that 1 amp plugged into that 1 load.
I'm not going to do that.
But I get the point. I get your point, John. And I think what you're saying is, yeah, there's some products out there that have all these different jacks and functions, but they specifically say you can't use this one together with that one because it'll cancel it out, or you can only use one at a time, or these two don't work together. And I hate that. I'm a person that if you're going to offer that feature, offer the feature, make it work. And if you're making it so that one works and the other one doesn't, then
You're
it's kind of
super anal about that kind of thing.
It's cheating. It's just like it's
Yeah.
not 2 features. It's 1 feature one time, and then it's the same feature operating differently another time.
Yeah.
It's not 2. But you're going to bullet point it in the advertising as, hey, it's got these 2 features. It's only 1 when it comes to actually
I know,
using
that
it.
really
That
bugs you.
irritates me.
Yeah. Before we start to wrap up, do you want to? You gave a little foreshadowing in there, and nobody will know what it was right now. Do you want to talk about what we're going to talk about on the next episode?
Well, I do. But one thing I want to do before we do that is I want to just talk about why I have a guitar on for a second. And why I have the guitar on is because I just was thinking today one of my favorite songs, which is kind of a funny song, from a blues guy who's no longer with us, Albert Collins. And the song is I Ain't Drunk, I'm Not Drinking, and it's a hysterical song. And I thought of it because we're not drinking this episode, because we're like all on the mend. And it just made me think of the song because it's hilarious. And the song is about a guy giving him shit for being drunk all the time. And it's the conversation between them. Oh man, I don't drink all the time, blah, 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 blah. And so the last verse of the song is him admitting, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm drunk all the time. And it is funny, the progression of the song, but the last verse is like, he's sort of thanking the guy for giving him advice that he's
Okay.
you know, like letting him know that he's over the top. And it's, I wanted to see, what did he say? Now you done the right thing, and I want to thank you too. Now let's have a little drink, just me and you. It just cracked me up. It just cracked me up.
Bring us up to the chorus. There's
what's the rest of it?
I'm sorry, I don't remember it either.
Now I don't care what the people are thinking. I ain't drunk. I'm just drinking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
The Iceman.
so I just thought of the Iceman, and I thought, you know what? Besides that, we just got a couple little things to cover.
Hey guys, what was the show different with us being completely sober? I wonder. I know we did a depressing history. What is happening? Are the old ways returning?
Well, I just thought that we so behaved ourselves that I just thought, now let's have a little drink, just me and you.
Oh, Scott, yeah, you kind of called it, I think, because I see what's happening over here. Oh my gosh.
Well, we wanted to make sure that we kept it coherent and sort of stuck to our guns, which we did. And so now we're gonna reward ourselves. This will be our first margarita since
Since I was on the floor and
since
Dave
you
was
were on
telling
the
me
floor.
I lost. Thank you. Oh boy.
So thank all of you for hanging out with us, and we're gonna have a little sip, and then we'll just like wrap up with some last couple of comments that Joe was mentioning
Yeah.
about, and then we're gonna take off and go get something healthy to eat. So,
Even my non-taste buds are telling me citrus. Oh, that's great. Happiness. Thank you.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
Next time we're going to check out some sakis.
Okay, I know nothing about sake.
Well,
so-
we'll talk about sakis, and we'll have a depressed history lesson about sake.
I'm here for it, or I will be.
And so what was the last couple of things that you wanted to inject?
Just to kind of letting you guys know what we're planning on talking about next time, which was we'll get deeper into it, but it sprang from the last time when we had Dave here, and he alluded to, I think
He had mentioned
I
that.
asked him what his favorite amplifier was.
Right.
And he started talking about this 50-watt Marshall that he owned. And then he happened to say that it didn't ever quite sound right until this guy over here got a hold of it. And
put it back to stock.
Yeah,
Because he
and
had
then-
it modified.
and he was kind of trying to give you props, I think. And
Yeah.
you were just like, well, yeah, the big thing that I did was I just made it do what it was
I
originally
put it back to
supposed
stock and set the bias properly, and he was like, and then he remembered. He went, "Oh, that's right, yeah, because after you did that, it sounded right." But the what I thought of the other guy that was going to do the mod was going to make it sound fatter. It just didn't make it sound fatter. It made it sound fizzier. And when I gave it to you, you gutted all that and put it back to stop. And when I got it back, it had the fatness that I wanted. And that's when I learned that how important a bias was. And then he said he'd given it to somebody else to do something else. And when he got it back, it was all thin sounding again. And it's because it wasn't biased the same way. So what it did was it reminded me about not only the importance of properly biasing in that, but also one of the things that we really like doing here, which is smashing misconceptions about things like that. What so many people get wrong about bias and how it should be set, and modifying the bias circuit like in high watt amps. So we're gonna get deeply into that. We're actually even gonna do a little sort of a demo video where we
Supplemental video.
have an amplifier on the bench, and we talk about the different ways of biasing and what people always get wrong about the whole process of biasing an amp, what it means.
We might try and get Dave's 50 watt Marshall if he's around and it's available. That would be funny. But I think should we use a Marshall? Since that's where it started?
Yeah, I think, I think I'm going to, actually, I did talk to Dave. I think we'll try to get his 50 watt Marshall here that I originally worked on and tweak it out a little bit. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that supplemental video with that one, because that would be fun to do.
Yeah.
Because that'll be the first time I had my fingers in it since I pretty much started this whole dog and pony show that we call Fryette.
And we really don't we don't do a lot about Marshalls.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that we don't like them. Far from it.
That's right. That's right.
So we'd like to talk about them more often.
So there actually has really been merit to like taking care of ourselves on this show and being good little boys and girls, because we actually covered all the stuff that we wanted to cover. We didn't step on our whats in the process, and I think you did a great job of mapping everything out and keeping it on track. So
good.
Awesome. And we didn't go some stupid amount of time. We're in there 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good time to jump out and go finish the margarita and maybe have a taco.
All right, that sounds very wonderful.
So again, thank you guys all for hanging out. Really appreciate it.
You guys coming up with topics for future shows and videos and everything.
We'll
see
definitely
them
cover
there.
that.
They will be noted and digested. It's not just in vain. So thank you very much, guys, and thanks for hanging with us. Super gratitude.
Cheers. Take care of yourself and the people around you. And have a great one. See you next time.
See you guys.